We received a grant from the Ohio Forestry Association Foundation to buy trees for students for an Arbor Day event. But we were hoping that using this homegrown national park that we could actually connect you to some citizen science and connect you to a project that's larger than just you going out and planting a tree in your yard. But this week, all the trees that you see in the room back here will be distributed to schools later this week, and they are all native to Ohio. We have over 1,200 trees coming out to our Portage schools. And after you plant your tree, if you choose to do so, you can pin that location where you planted the tree to the Homegrown National Park map. And you will receive a link and planting information and lots of information about the tree species that you receive. Homegrown National Park is a national program, and we hope you will participate. We asked Jen White with Portage Park District to help us better understand how planting a tree in your backyard will make your yard more like a park. And so let's hear from Jen right now.
Hi there, my name is Jennifer White. I'm with the Portage Park District. And what do you think of when you think of a park? Do you think of it as a place to go explore, or to hike, to exercise, maybe to meditate? There are lots of different mental and physical health benefits of being outside, and going to parks accomplishes those. Our mission at your Portage Park District is to connect you with our natural areas and to conserve our rich natural heritage in Portage County. So our natural areas are filled with all sorts of amazing little treasures. So our streams, our wetlands, our meadow areas, our forests, like this one that you see here at Shaw Woods. All of these areas provide wildlife habitat, food, water, and shelter for all different types of wildlife, but they also clean our air and they filter our water. These areas are what we call ecologically functional landscapes. That means that they don't just look pretty, even though it's beautiful. It means they also provide a function for the animals and plants that live here. In these natural areas, everything that you see here that uses them is connected. Everything. So all of the plants and animals are dependent on other plants and animals to survive. The tiny little flowers that are going to be popping up after this snow melts, they are going to have flowers that are going to be pollinated by specific insects, certain bees or flies or other insects that are going to pollinate that. The fruits that are produced by that flower are going to be eaten by birds. Those birds are going to be preyed on by other birds or other larger mammals. And so all of those items work together, all of those creatures work together. And we as humans are also part of nature. We are also dependent on the health of our natural areas. So as amazing as these natural areas are in our parks, the parks themselves are not large enough to support all of our local biodiversity. So that's where you come in. You get to help by planting native plants, trees, and shrubs, and creating this amazing natural area in your yard. You can plant things that our native insects can use to pollinate, that our birds can use for food, that our animals can use for shelter, and you can accomplish all of that by just planting a few trees or shrubs in your yard that are native to this area, so that you create an ecological landscape, an ecologically functional landscape in your backyard. So just imagine all the good things that can happen when you choose to plant trees and shrubs that support our local wildlife, when you choose to make your yard an extension of your Portage Park District, when you choose to be part of this movement to create a homegrown national park that links all of our local animals and plants and preserves our local biodiversity. Thank you so much, and I'm so excited that you're participating.
Thank you, Jennifer. And I really encourage you guys to try to get out and visit a Portage Park sometime soon. We're really lucky to have so many beautiful sites in the county. Next up, we're going to hear from Jamie Emmert with Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Wildlife. We asked Jamie to talk specifically about the importance of oak trees to wildlife. And so we're going to hear from Jamie now.
Hi, I'm Jamie Emmert from the Ohio Division of Wildlife, and I'm here to talk to you about the importance of oak trees to wildlife. Oak trees, especially white oaks, are so valuable to wildlife. Biologists estimate that about 90% of Ohio's forest wildlife species depend on white oaks to survive. Rabbits, squirrels, and deer will also browse on buds, leaves, and branches. Many species will use large oak trees for shelter and to access nesting material. And we can't forget the important exchange of oak trees absorbing large amounts of carbon dioxide in exchange for life-giving oxygen, making this planet a healthier place for everyone. Acorns produced by oaks are so valuable to a wide array of species in Ohio. This includes black bear, deer, raccoons, red fox, wild turkey, wood ducks, blue jays, the list goes on. Acorns are incredibly valuable, especially in the winter when food is otherwise scarce. Biologists actually refer to acorns as the cheeseburgers of the forested ecosystem because they pack so much protein, fat, and calories into such a little package. Black-capped chickadees are a perfect example of a species that depends on oak trees. They need thousands of caterpillars in order to successfully raise a family. A large, white oak tree can help fill this need.
Up to now, we have been talking mostly about woody plant species, trees and shrubs. Trees provide long-term, year-round environmental and wildlife benefits. Trees that flower early in the growing season, such as native maples, willows, and cherries, are also very important for early pollinators as a source for nectar and pollen. This video shows American plum and American crab apple, which are both blooming in mid-April, long before our native perennials begin to flower. Most of our native trees flower in the spring, but pollinators and other types of insects, as well as the birds that eat insects, also need flowers throughout the summer. In our last session, we will hear from Doug Tallamy, the researcher that started the homegrown national park concept. The website, as shown here, provides a national map where you can pin your tree location after you plant it.
Animals. Absolutely every animal on this planet gets its food directly from plants. Gets its food either by eating a plant or by eating something else that ate the plant. And that's because plants are the only organisms that can capture the sun's energy and turn it into food. The most important group of animals that take energy from plants and pass it to other animals are the insects that eat plants. We'll call them insect herbivores. And most insect herbivores are only able to eat a particular group of plants. We call that specialization. They can only eat the plants that they have co-evolved with because plants defend themselves with nasty chemicals, and it takes long periods of time for insects to develop the physiological ability to digest those chemicals. When we create a meadow, we are in effect restoring an ancient food web. This works best if we use the native plants that were originally part of that food web. We'd like to favor native plants because the insect herbivores that evolved where you want to put your meadow evolved in concert with those native plants. They have specialized on those native plants over many, many thousands of years, which have enabled those insects to eat them. Those same insects have no evolutionary exposure to plants that evolved in China or Europe. They won't be able to eat these plants. They won't be able to digest them. They won't even recognize them as food plants. So if you're creating a meadow, choose plants that are native to your area, the country. A good example of an insect that specializes on one group of plants because of that plant's chemistry is our friend the monarch butterfly. It eats milkweeds and nothing else because it's able to break down the nasty chemicals that are in milkweeds, but it's unable to digest any other type of plant. If we cut milkweeds down then, monarch larvae cannot crawl off and eat some other type of plant. So if we destroy the plants that these insect herbivores have specialized on, they will have nothing to eat and will be doomed to extinction. So stop and think about it. So many animals depend on insects for their food. All amphibians, for example, eat insects. So do many reptiles and rodents. And 96% of our terrestrial birds rear their young on insects. If we replace our native plants with non-native plants, then all of those animals won't have enough to eat. And that'll hit biodiversity very hard. And of course, that's exactly what we've done by creating lawns and landscaping with non-native plants that evolved outside of our local ecosystems. So remember what a meadow is all about. It's not just a beautiful place, but but it's a place where things can live. Living things have two requirements. They need food and they need a place to live. Your meadow provides both. It provides food because of the plants that you put in your meadow. And if you put many different types of plants in your meadow, you'll have a diversity of food for a diversity of insects, and you'll have a diversity of natural enemies that will eat those insects. And the meadow provides habitat, hiding places, those little niches where the birds and the other meadow creatures can nest and rear their young. Planting a native wildflower meadow is so much more beautiful and dynamic, both structurally and in terms of species, than planting a monoculture such as a lawn. Somebody once said that gardening is a way of showing that you believe in tomorrow. And I think that's never been more true than today, because the way we garden, the way we create places like meadows, is going to determine what life looks like tomorrow.